Hello, welcome to the Outcast. I'm your host, HC. With me is.
Wolf.
And today, a journey has been ended in a sense
Another
because,
one.
yeah, another one like the last time, in terms of recording wise, we talked about the season finale of another Netflix show which premiered in 2017, which was She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. But and now here we are with another ending to a Netflix show, a very popular one. 13 Reasons Why. To those who are new here, we reviewed the first three seasons before, and now we're here with the final one, which just came out yesterday at the time of this recording.
Mm-hmm.
So before we start, if you haven't listened to our previous 13 Reasons Why reviews, we just want to say that we are talking about this show, as a show, as a story-driven show, and any kind of talk we have about mental illness or depression or abuse or any kind of other problem, this is just from personal experience or personal experience of friends. But we are not psychologists, we are not psychiatrists, we are not professionals, we are not we are not a guide for this kind of thing. If you're suffering from any of those, then seek a professional, talk to someone. We are not the address. I just want to make this clear now that we are looking at this as a show, not as like a public service of any kind.
Mm-hmm.
So with that said, I guess if you want more info about our thoughts about the previous seasons, you can check them out in our profile. We combined seasons 1 and 2 into one episode, and we have an entire episode about season 3. But to kind of sum this up, I I like season 1 personally. It's definitely flawed considering the subject matter, but I still think it did an overall good job. Season 2, I didn't like at all. Season 3, when it came out, I appreciated it a lot more, but the more time went by, the more I started to not like it all that much.
I think so. So we're kind of talking about our different thoughts of the different seasons for 13 Reasons Why now.
Yeah, kind of let's catch the viewers up in case
Okay,
they
so
didn't see.
if I'm not mistaken, I think I said I agree with you on season one. I think I liked it's definitely flawed. It doesn't do its job perfectly, but I think it was at least trying right, and it was a step in that right direction of other things can potentially cover this, and even if this doesn't do great, other things can look at this and say, okay, here's the things we can take from this that it does right, and here's the things that we should not that we can take from this and say, okay, we don't do these things because it did not do them well. Like season one, you know it was a good, I guess you'd say, like a good way to start a conversation, right? Season two, while I don't think it was, well, I do think season two was better than season one, right? In terms of some of the things it broached on and how it handled them, I think it handled them a little bit better than what season one handled some of its subject matter. And I think season two like ended everything really nicely, right? I think season two had that one
Yeah, it had
the
that one moment until the cliffhanger show.
until the cliffhanger ending. Yeah, the ending before that though, where everyone's kind of dancing together. I think we both ended up
Yeah,
agreeing on like
I think
that
I
should
will
have
talk about
wrapped
this.
all of this up, and that's where 13 Reasons Why should have ended. 13
Yes.
Reasons Why didn't end there, and we got season three and now season four. And I'll say, and I think on season three, I said I kind of liked season three more than seasons one and two because,
I remember you said that. I remember that.
and I, if I'm not mistaken, I said it because season three felt so disconnected from what people would normally go through in their normal lives that it almost felt better in a way, right? Like it felt like because it was so disconnected, it could touch on things. And I feel it did touch on at least some things, not everything. Again, still think it dropped the ball here and there, but on some things, I think it actually did better on because it was more disconnected. Like, how many kids have how many kids are going to have lived through stopping a friend from shooting up a place and then hiding the guns that they bought illegally? Not many.
Yes.
If you are one of those, wow, heavy.
Yeah,
I
if you're one of those,
respect
respect.
for you, yeah, I guess. Don't do that though. That's not a good thing, actually.
This is not a good kind of respect, but still worth mentioning.
Hmm. But season 4,
You want to take it first?
I can.
You know what? Before you do, just
Mm-hmm.
again, if you're new here, then welcome. Great to have you here. But the way this
Mm-hmm.
works, since this is a new season, like we said, we're recording this the day after it premiered.
Mm-hmm.
We are starting with like a non-spoiler thoughts discussion, and when we're about to get the spoilers, we'll let you know so that you can go watch the season and then come back and listen to our spoiler thoughts. So, with that said, this is going to be the non-spoiler section. If you haven't seen all the episodes or the entire season and you're planning on doing this, this is still a safe spot. So, Wolf, go ahead.
So I had notes, and dummy me and sleepy me, because I because we just got to finish watching this and now recording it. Forgot to save the notes, and so they're all gone. So I'm just gonna wing it.
Uh, it's okay.
um,
It,
I I think right, season 4 is a little is more of season 3, right? But somewhat better in some. Again, it has those moments of, here's some things we're going to show you and we're going to touch on. And we're going to do them, in my opinion, fairly well, and it's worth showing those things. And I would say I did like season 4 more or less. I do think there's some stuff that is kind of but I did enjoy. I don't necessarily want to say I enjoyed it, but I didn't mind my time with it, I guess you would say, right? I don't know if you can enjoy a show like this, but
I know what you mean. You didn't suffer.
mhm.
Well, you didn't suffer, but I sure did because, whoa, boy, talk about going out on a whipper for such a show like this that made an impact. I'm not gonna cut around the bush. This is my least favorite season.
Hmm.
I like you said, they do some stuff right, and I'll get to what I think they did right later on. But oh my god, like you know how every episode is like an hour, with the exception of the finale.
Yeah.
Like, I felt those hours, man. I felt
You know,
every hour.
I'm not gonna lie, here and there I think I did too. Especially for the last episode. I think I felt it the most for that one.
No, but
Because
there was like this thing with the previous seasons that episodes were an hour long, and like if I would watch a few of them in a row, I would start to feel it. But like here, after every episode, I just needed a break. I was like, I was like so tired by the end of an episode, and I never, not even once, I had this idea of I'm tired, but I want to keep watching in order to see where this is going.
okay,
I didn't have that with that season. In the previous ones I did. This one I didn't. It was just a season of I'm honestly watching this because I want to see how it ends and because I need to do a podcast about it. These
so
were literally the two reasons.
so when you say it drained you and just made you tired, do you mean like, wow, do you mean kind of a tired of, wow, that was heavy, I need a bit, or just kind of, wow, that dragged on and it's just ugh.
Dragging,
Okay.
dragging, because I was also talking to some friends throughout this, and when I told them I'm watching 13 Reasons Why, and they were like, "Oh my god, dude, I hope you're okay. Don't," and I'm like, mentally I'm okay. It's just the show tired me out in the sense of I just needed, after an episode ended, I just needed to get up and walk around a bit. I needed to do something because my brain wasn't working. I was out. And, it sometimes happens, like I said with the previous incidents, after a few episodes I would watch in a row and be like, okay, I need a break. But this was like every episode just drained me. And but again, to put this in perspective, this is not an entirely doomed season. There are stuff I like, and we'll get to those in the spoilers. But I think is that again, we're not sure. We can't know what happened behind the scenes of this show, and I have a rant about this. So I think it's gonna be a rant. I don't know,
Oh
but
boy.
the thing is that I feel like they had a solid idea for a season. They had but the execution and the fact that they need to fill those hour-long episodes just killed it. Like if and honestly, you, and I was like, like the main idea that interested me the most, I think, just kind of fell flat because it's surrounded by other stuff that doesn't matter.
Hmm. Interesting. It's definitely interesting to hear the different perspectives here. I think because like I said, I do see where you're coming from on the kind of this just felt like it dragged in parts because at the very least because I kind of had that feeling a bit myself where yeah I'm watching this but I could kind of skip this and not care too much like this part in particular or that part in particular here and there I felt like this just feels like I guess you'd say padding in a way, right? It feels like I'm just, we're going through the motions now
Well,
of this needs to
you know
happen,
what?
so let's add this in and then we can get to the quote unquote better stuff.
Mhm. Let's be honest for a second, like because I'm sure, I'm sure I'm sure somebody probably wants to mention this in the comments or something. We know that this show is based on a book, and moreover, we know
I did
that
not. Oh
the
no, I think you've said that before and I said I
yeah,
did not know. So once again,
yeah, like
I forgot, so I did not know.
but the point is that the book that season one covered the entire book. Everything from season two onward is made up for the sake of having a show.
Ah.
And I think this is the thing, and I think this is the problem here that they had this set up in the first season, which is why say what you want about it. I know a lot of people who don't like the first season, but at the same time, you can tell that they had a plan for season one and how to set stuff up. But when it comes to the other seasons, you can start to see how this drags a bit, which is also weird for this season because this season was only 10 episodes instead of the usual 13.
Mm. If this was 13, I definitely think it would have been
Oh, if this was 13, dude, I would fucking cut my wrists myself because I couldn't take it anymore.
bad
But
joke.
yeah,
Bad joke. Very
probably
bad
bad
joke.
joke. Sorry
But
about that.
I do get where you're coming from in the fact that yeah, I don't think this. I think it was smart on their part to say, okay, we only need 10 episodes for this. Probably could have still cut some more back, but it was definitely smart to only do 10 episodes. I do not see where they could get 3 more episodes from for what they
And
did.
honestly, considering the last episode is an hour and a half, they probably tried getting 11, but as
Yeah.
I halfway through, they were like, fuck it, let's just end this here. But, yeah, other than that, do you have anything else non spoilery to say? Or
No, I think we can jump right into it.
okay, so spoilers from this point out. You know what? I have something to say that is kind of non-spoilery, but it kind of connects to to one of the first lines says in the first episode. So this is your spoiler warning. Do not go any further if you don't want anything spoiled for you. We are starting, and also keep in mind that we are not going episode by episode. We are probably gonna jump around the plot points. So don't go in thinking, oh, I watched episode one, I'll just listen to this. No, 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 no. Be safe here. So, spoilers in three, two, one. You still here? Good. Let's talk about one of the first things we. So, in this season, the voiceover is done by Clay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, which are different from Hannah's narrations in seasons 1 and 2, and Annie's in 3. So, and the thing is that one of the first things he says, which pissed me off in both the context of the show and in a meta sense, is when Clay says that my friends needed me and that gave me life. Something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
Clay, I'm just gonna say it now, I hated Clay in this season. At least 80% of him I hated in this season. Because when a person says something like this, like as someone who's kind of like him, who's someone who's like trying to help everyone around them and stuff, you do not say something like my friends needed me, so it get no. You are not helping people to benefit yourself. You are helping people to benefit them. So that kind of irked me the way it was written.
Well, I
But
do think that's kind of the
but
point.
hold on.
Okay,
I'm not done. I'm not
fair
done.
enough.
Now it's time to go to the meta sense of the entire thing. Like we said, season 1 covered the entirety of the original white book. So everything else is the show. And the way they say, I don't know, kind of seeing how, the show's creators, talk against criticism of the show in terms of what they represent, what they say, what they show, everything. This this line kind of told me. I know that it's probably not the intention, but it kind of came across as you need this show in your life. You need to have this show because we are the only ones talking about it like it should be talked about. We are here to help you. We are here to bring into our fact that this is something that's happening. And I'm sorry, no, we don't necessarily need certain reasons why to talk about this kind of stuff. And moreover, certain reasons why isn't doing this any better than some of the other shows that came along, like Sex Education, for example, also on Netflix. So much shorter, but gets the point across really well. And as someone who recently helped one of his friends with abuse, I won't mention names.
Mm-hmm.
I just came to the idea. I just suddenly realized that this show kind of goes against its own morality because it says talk, seek help. You can get through this, but at the same time, the characters don't do this.
Oh yeah.
And the reasons the characters don't do this is because we need to hammer this message in. But we can't do that if the characters actually follow that message. So everyone in this show comes up as a hypocrite. And why is this happening? Because the show has this such love for itself and such ego to think it's so freaking important that they need to come back even after the entire main plot is done, and they need to drag this out in order to keep being there for us, quote unquote. And it's just this one line made me realize this, and I was so angry, especially again after what my friend told me. Certain reasons why it doesn't speak for me, and she told me this right a bit before. But my God, this like talk about bad first impressions, because this didn't do the season or the show in entirety any favors.
This is gonna be Vin. This is gonna be the Vin episode. I can see.
Oh, I'm a bit drained. Want to keep going for a bit?
Um, sure. I guess kind of jumping into it. Our first big plot point, if I'm not mistaken, is um, you know, we're back at Winston transfers to Liberty High. Winston is the one who last slept with Monty, and he was in love with Monty, or so he thinks, and
Yeah.
you know he's the only one who can say like, hey, he's the one who can give Monty an alibi, right? Like that's what he can do, but he doesn't, and Monty didn't give himself an alibi either by saying that. So it's kind of like, you know, he's trying to figure out who killed Monty because he knows something's off, right? And then we have
Mhm.
Tyler getting pulled in by the police and questioned about the guns because they were found. Obviously last season that was a thing they showed at the end of the last season because we got to have our cliffhanger endings.
Yep. Actually, this is something I will give credit that we talked about this last time. That it's kind of weird that a show like this that again of talking to people and be open and stuff solves the conflict of the previous season by lying. So I like how in this the characters do have to confront the idea and the consequences of their deeds
Mm-hmm.
because so I like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually fine.
Fair enough.
Wolf. Okay.
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm still here.
Okay. So yeah, that's one thing. That's give the credit for.
And
And
the other big thing for we're starting off with is that Clay's going through having panic attacks, everything like that, because he feels guilty about
mhm,
covering up Monty's death and the fact, and basically putting the blame of Bryce's death on Monty.
mhm.
And that's kind of a big thing throughout the season because Clay's dealing with that guilt and everything, and that ends up kind of, I guess, working into Clay is dealing with that guilt and those panic attacks and everything else he's going through and all the secrets these kids are keeping, and that eventually worked itself into him. Developing a kind of split personality. Well, not necessarily split personality, but dissociative disorder, if I'm not mistaken. That's what it's called.
Mhm.
And he uses that, and his dissociative disorder basically has him doing things that he does not remember doing. Like, you find out later in the season that I think is it this episode we see we find out someone spray painted, and vandalized the
It's one
school
of the
and spray
first.
painted
I
Monty
think
was framed. It's either
it's
this
either
one or the
episode
next one.
two,
Yeah,
either two or three, something along the first one.
one of those two. And then we see, yeah, it's the second one is what it is because they're trying to hide the paint during the college tour. Um,
Mhm.
again, we kind of just start off everyone trying to, you know, get back into the swing of things and just kind of getting caught up. It's a bit of a slower episode. Again, I had my
Yeah.
notes, but they were deleted.
Never mind that. But what did I want to say? That you mentioned Clay's problems, the
Hmm.
panic attacks and stuff. This is actually one part again with exception. This is one part that I will say I enjoyed because
Hmm.
I probably mentioned this before during the rant from a few minutes ago, but I do relate to what Clay's been going through with the entire. For some reason, that I want to help my friend, to be there for them and stuff, and there was life a bit that I put too much emphasis on this, and it kind of started hurting me. I've gotten better with this, but it was nice to see this point being tackled, especially after 3 seasons of this kid trying to basically solve the entire world's problem. So
Hmm.
this was nice to see. And while I do have some anxiety attacks, I didn't have them to that level. I will say right away. So maybe I'm not the right person to talk about this all that much, but at the same time, I think this was a good part of the season, and I think this is the main reason we have this season. But everything surrounding
Well,
this
I don't think it's the
drags it up.
main reason we have this season. I think there's another reason why we have this season as well, but we'll get to that. Yeah, I will say as well, like I enjoyed kind of Zach's, character throughout this, right? Where he's just kind of,
Yeah, basically
seeing
just
him cope in his own way of just he's kind of given up, right? Like that's him coping. Him coping is just like fuck it all, whatever. I don't care anymore, right?
yeah.
I kind of enjoyed that because it was done really well because you can see him continually pushing everyone away and continually just getting worse and worse throughout the season until the very end where he finally does realize that there are people around who care about him and who want to see him succeed and do better, right? that was also done fairly well, seeing his character arc throughout that, because you have him almost get Alex killed and then save him
Yeah.
because they're
Mhm.
walking on a building
Yeah,
right
as
on
I'm
the
walking on
ledge.
that roof.
hmm And that's the
But
moment where Alex kisses Zach.
yeah, and I was about to say that. Well, which one of them is true? And it ended up being Alex, which I honestly, looking at the entire show, this does kind of make sense.
Yeah.
And so yeah, this
And there
was
was
a thing.
also, what else was there? I'm trying to think.
Actually, can we talk about Justin coming back from rehab, with all the drugs he's been using.
hmm
And as soon as he's coming back from rehab, like this was my given up point number one, I guess. That as soon as Justin's coming back and Jessica is just be with him because she's his girlfriend, and he's like, you know what, I don't want to be with you anymore. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? We've had this bullshit for 3 seasons. Why are we doing this again?
Yeah, that was
I'm
a
so
bit
sick of this.
meh. And they don't do it again. They kind of lead it as, oh, he's doing it because he realizes that she's not necessarily a good influence for him, and that he's maybe not a good influence for her either, and he wants to be away from her so he can try and focus on his recovery and his addiction, right?
Yeah, but then you know
But
what? I could have gotten this if it was about her moving on,
hmm
and if it was about him, actually trying to get better at his drug usage. I would have
hmm
gotten it like this. But then they keep throughout the seasons, they keep doing this entire. Would they not? Where they kind
hmm
of make out on the side, and then he's like, I saw you with Diego. Like when
Yep.
she actually starts showing interest, it's like I don't care anymore. Are you
Nope.
gonna bang or are you gonna bang my brain? Like,
I agree. Like it again, they had something here, but then they decided to do the, oh, it's teenage love. So here's them arguing now. Here's her trying to get back at him with dating another guy and trying to get even with him, and he does care because he gets upset and he gets jealous, and it's like you've done this now for 3 other seasons between these two. They're back and forth. We just don't care anymore. For now, at this point, again, it's just drama for the sake of drama, and we just don't care anymore. Either they're
yeah, like
together
this
or they're
was,
not.
yeah,
And
like
and
I gave
again,
up on them.
considering, spoilers, Justin
We're in the
dies.
spoilers section.
Just
Yeah, we
telling
are
you
in.
now, spoilers, Justin dies at the end of this. Once
Which
you once you
honestly,
see that, right? But once you see that, once you know that, you look back at the rest of the season and say, this entire drama between Justin and Jessica was just done to make that death feel more impactful. Because, oh, they've
yeah,
finally
and
gotten together. They've finally realized how good they are for one another. Oh, he's dead.
yeah, but wouldn't it be even more powerful if we actually saw them together and actually saw them building something,
Yes, it would
and
have,
not
but
uh,
that's not what the show does, and that's kind of the problem, is my
because the
point.
show is a pretentious piece of shit. But that's another that's another story.
hmm
Okay, sorry, coming down here, um, but there's something about the Justin thing. If we brought this up, that the Justin dies at the end of this, am I the only one that thinks that came out well? Like,
You
uh,
broke up a little bit.
like
What now?
uh, the entire thing with Justin dying, and from all the from the AIDS,
hmm
this kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
which
a little bit.
which
I'll
which
admit.
I get it. Life, sometimes you
Yeah,
don't sometimes you don't
absolutely.
expect this. Yeah, I get this. And they also kind of did hint at it in the previous season, where he admits that he was abused,
hmm
sexually abused and stuff. So you know what, it's not completely out of left field, but it's like, will to suddenly bring this in, you know 3 episodes before the end, and then all of a sudden in the last, it's like, well, he's dead. And it's like, wait, how did we get here? What? Why? Huh? Huh?
Again, it feels like, it was a lot of stuff in this season, even though some of it is done well, it does feel like it's done to send that message, right? Of,
Mhm.
hey, we need to change things, and it's like, I don't disagree with you, we do, but
That's the problem, though, that it's a good message. I don't, and that's why I give season one a bit more credit here
it
because
is
nobody really.
muddied by
Mm.
a show that at times, you know, I don't want
Not
to
at
say,
times.
I
I would
more
say a
often,
show that forgets it,
yeah,
a show
well,
that literally
not only
forgets it.
forgets it, but it takes, it says, hey, we're sending a message. We're the ones who are doing something. It kind of takes that frame of mind and runs with it a bit and thinks that and forgets, right? That in order for you to send that message, you actually have to be able and willing to do something worthwhile for a lot of this. And it feels like a lot of the times the show's not really doing something worthwhile. It's just kind of going through the motions of
Mhm.
sending the message. I guess if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you.
Like
And
it
also,
feels like,
again,
it knows that it's a good message to send. It understands that, but it doesn't really get it across in the best way at times. Or it falters, but then still acts like we sent a good message. We're doing good here. And it's like,
very
eh.
debatable. Very, very debatable. But whatever, right? Is that like they have this message that they want to send, and again, it's a good message and everything. But then when you actually think about actually look at this, it's like what is the show actually do within the story to encourage that message?
Mhm.
And that is they tell you to ignore it. We need the characters to have problems. So
Well, there's
as which
also
is like
there. Oh, go ahead.
no, I was just about to say, I think a lot of problems within the episode could have been solved if characters just talk to each other.
I
Be
mean,
it Clay, be it Clay to his parents, be it Jessica to Justin, be it someone to somebody. I just want to sit them down, tell them to actually talk. And
all
that's
right.
the problem. And that's the problem when the show is trying to encourage that. So show the benefits. Don't show
Two.
people being idiots and ignoring the best.
I don't disagree with you. With that said, to be fair, let's, since you've brought that up, let's talk for a moment and sit back and say, look at every single show that has ever existed, every story, every movie, every story, every show, everything, and
Yeah.
the underlying problem for all of them is, why did these fools not talk to one another? Because, damn it, if they did, we wouldn't be here and this would all be solved and done. Almost every single story can connect back to that one
Yeah.
flaw. All
Yeah.
of
I
them.
I I get you. I get you. But here's the thing. But here's what I'm saying. Because I think I may have brought this up with Shiva. That some of the problems could have been solved by just talk.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, Shira is not a show that tries to tell you that you need to talk to someone if you're feeling abused or have been hurt or something.
Fair
This is
enough.
not a show that came to get that message across. This show does. And in the first season, I could have gotten this because you need to see the bad influences of this. I
Mm-hmm.
get it, but when you're entering season four and the characters don't understand the message that you are trying to push here, no, this is starting to become a problem.
Mm. I get that. I can see where you're coming from with that now. And I don't disagree, right? Because it feels like no one has learned the previous, again, it feels like this has been the message consistently, like you need to talk. And again, the show does have consistent warnings at the beginning of a season, at the end of every single episode. Hey, talk with someone, you should seek someone out to talk, no matter who it is. And it does have those warnings, and it does kind of bill itself as, these is the reason, these are all the things that can happen if you don't talk to someone. Very dramatic, over the
Yeah.
top dramatic even,
And
because
also
I
to think that,
highly doubt you're going to have to, keep your friend from shooting up a school and things like that. So again, like, but it has those issues, and it kind of says, but this is the message, and we see 3 seasons already of these characters consistently learning this message, but never completely getting it. And then we go into the fourth season, and it's still they've learned this message again, but they're still not doing it until close to the very end, where we finally see them start to talk to people, but they still don't say everything, right? Like we see them in a later episode finally tell some of their parents about some of the stuff that's happening going on and be upfront and open and honest, right? But they don't tell them everything. So they're still lying, they're still keeping secrets, and that's still the problem, you
yep.
know? So it's like, hey, our characters finally learned the lessons, guys. They finally get it now, but not quite, because they're not saying everything, so they don't really get it. They just kind of get it. The only one who may have learned anything was potentially Clay, who's seeing a therapist and telling him everything, right?
Did he though? Did he?
By the way
Because
the
I'm very.
therapist talks, who, by the way, I know that actor. Good choice for the actor. I like the therapist guy. He was actually cool. I liked him, and that actor's pretty okay.
Okay, I'm sorry, but like after it was established that Clay starts imagining Monty
Yeah.
for there was a point when I saw that face, I just thought for a second that the character's face is going to be CGI'd into Monty's,
Ooh.
because something about the face structure kind of like, oh my god, is he going to
Eh?
change?
Maybe,
I don't
but
know.
they did not. But
Yeah.
you know, they did the way he talked, the way the therapist, character talked and came off to me. It sounded like Clay told him pretty much everything, right?
Mhm.
Or pretty
Well,
close to.
that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
They do write it to so that you assume.
Yeah. I
Actually,
agree.
do you have anything to say about the psychologist? This kind of leads me to something else I want to
Um.
talk about,
Yeah.
which
I
is
am. Is Clay's what?
Clay's situation. Is
Oh
his
yeah.
anxiety and panic
Oh yeah. You can go ahead.
panic
I'll just.
attacks. Them.
I'll say about the psychiatrist character that I actually liked him. I think he was done really well, and I think he came off really well. I enjoyed him. I
Mhm.
liked him. That's all I can
Awesome.
say.
Yeah. So the thing with Clay is that, like I said, and I still hold to my word, this is a good thing to do with a character after this shit.
Yep.
And because let's be honest, if someone was in impacted by this, it was him.
Yeah.
You know, and then but then we kind of started to see that he has these anxiety attacks and panic attacks, and he's suffering. You can tell something is wrong with him. And there are there's the scene after there's supposedly like the school drill, where everything is under lockdown, and
Yeah.
he
I
actually
got some
and he's
things to say about that.
hmm?
I got some things to say about that, but we'll get to it. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, but so after the lockdown ends, and he actually gets annoyed at the cops and he starts screaming at them, this was great. This was like, holy shit! I'm invested. I want to see what's going on with this, and there are other scenes dealing with this.
Mm-hmm.
The kind of dreams he has, the kind of stuff he does, that actually made me think, oh my god, I feel sorry for this kid, and I kind of get
Mm-hmm.
what this kid is going through, because I might, if someone just pulled a school lockdown on me like this, I would have probably acted the same.
So
I don't, but then we get to the and this also, but then they kind of throw in this idea that he's doing stuff which he's not aware of,
yeah,
like
dissociative disorder. Basically,
yeah,
he'll go out and do something like he'll like it was shown that they went on a camping trip, and Clay basically the football team grabbed Clay to mess with him and threw him down a little cave area, and he apparently got out of that and basically started messing with all of them and really screwing with and scaring all of them, including his
yeah,
friends. And when he wakes up, he has all this other stuff inside the cave with him, and he doesn't even remember how it got there or anything he did, right? He also blew up the
Yes.
principal's car, and he does not remember
Mhm.
doing it, and that's a big,
Yeah,
that's a thing too that we'll get to. And then he did, other vandalism stuff that he just did not remember because of dissociative disorder.
yeah, but the thing is, and this is part of my problem with this because one, I don't know. This is something that I really have no information on. So if anyone wants to tell me that this is actually how it's going on, then I'm sorry in advance. But this is kind of late in the game to introduce this side to him, I think,
They've
because
mentioned it in previous episodes, but it was never like this, right? Like they've had him
no, because
always talking with the person who kind of dies in that season, right? But that was it. That's all
Mhm.
they've ever done. And
Yeah,
it's like,
but at the same time, Jessica dies with her rice, so that she has this now.
no, I don't think that's the same for her, right? I think, it's it's really hard to
And
say
also,
where they want to go with what sometimes.
well, the thing is though that I could get why he would have anxiety. I can get why he would have panic attacks. This was something, however, that I think they just throw in there for the sake of a mystery to keep the show going.
Yeah.
And and honestly, solving that mystery with just it's a condition, again, plot wise. Yeah, I'm not sure, realistic wise, if this is exactly how it works. I'm not judging anyone. I'm not
Hmm.
saying, but this is something that kind of came out of nowhere for his character, and I just think it was too jarring and too kind of forgotten about because the thing it comes up when the psychiatrist shows him the video of Clay blowing up the principal's car, and he's like, I don't remember doing this. And then we also see that he's the one that sprayed the walls. He's the one that messed with his friend, with the people at camp,
Hmm.
and all of that. And then it's just, and then wait, and then just forgotten. Like there's no nothing about this. Did he overcome it? Is it something that he's still fighting? What
I
is the
think the show
problem?
does kind of leave it in this frame of, by the end of it you realize he's not completely through it, but he is getting there, right? Like he's still working on it. I think that's kind of the idea.
Okay, fair. I think really know anyone with this condition, and didn't know and doesn't know much about this condition.
Hmm.
Maybe a bit more clarity could have been
Hmm.
nice, but
That's fair.
well.
But you mentioned something that is probably much more important.
The lockdown.
Yes, episode 6, Thursday, is basically dealing with an entire issue of, the school goes into lockdown because there's an active shooter threat, and we get to see that. What did you think about
Yes.
that? I'm very curious to hear because, I don't think it's too much to say. Like, you're not a, U.S. resident, right? So you've never had to deal with something like this, I'm guessing, right?
You know what? I'll tell this much to those who don't know. If you couldn't tell by this totally not annoying accent, I don't live in the U.S.
Yes.
Uh, so yeah, I live in Israel, and the thing is that whenever something like this is going on, we have shelters. Like whenever something like this, whenever we have drills like this, the thing they will tell us is get under a desk, get near a wall or something,
Mhm.
and then like when the okay is clear, you run to a shelter, which is usually near a class. So this was so I kind of got it. I kind of understood. I kind of went through this, but at the same time, this was different than what I'm used to.
Yeah, because welcome to the US. It's crazy, because all right, when I was in school, I never went through one of these. This is very much a new thing for, the generation after me, more or less. when I was in school, and I'm not that old, right? I'm not so old that the idea of school shootings weren't a thing, right? Like I was in school
You are 20.
29.
Okay.
So basically when I was in middle school, Columbine happened. To give some perspective. So school shootings weren't uncommon during my time, but I never had to go through a school lockdown and what that feels like and to see what that feels like or be through that or anything like that because I've heard from other kids who have went through it, right? I've heard them talk from watching news or just listening to other people, right? That it's even for a simulation, even for a drill that you have to train for, it's scary to say the least, and that's putting it very least because I have no connection to that, right? So it was interesting for me to get to see this because I think I'll praise the show for it because I feel like, it's easy to be disconnected if you've never had to go through something like that, right? If you've never lived through something like that yourself, it's easy to be a little bit disconnected when people talk to you about it. Like, this is how I felt. This is what I had to deal with. This is what it was like for me as a student to be there when this was happening, right? To go through a drill like that. So, for me, it kind of, in a way, helps bridge that disconnect a little bit and say, holy shit, that's some heavy stuff, right?
The one
So,
thing I will bring up about it is that when this drill happens, the principal and the teachers are acting as if it was a real thing, and
I
this is
mean,
one of the things.
the only one who knew it
And
wasn't real was the principal.
yeah, but that's one thing. Whenever there was a drill in my school, everyone always knew there was going to be a drill. Like everyone was prepared.
Hmm.
And I think, and so having no one really tell the kids that it's just, I think this is kind of what they making the show, that this is what sets Clay off, and that's the idea that at least the principal acted as if it was a real thing and scared for their lives. And when that happens, is it really the best way to handle this? Like, is
No,
it
but I think
good?
that's the message this show wants to send because that is what we do here in the US. We will do drills like that where people don't know except one or two, and that's it. And it's just like, you know, yeah, and they do it to test, the teacher and the students' responses. Like, that's an actual thing we do here in the US now. We have those kind of drills, and those drills are done with no alert to a lot of the staff or students at all, especially. And I think, and I, again, the show's trying to send that message of this is bad. We shouldn't put kids through that. And I agree, we shouldn't. We
Yeah,
absolutely
I
shouldn't.
agree with this too.
Because holy shit. And again, and I'll give the show credit for this one at least, because I think you show it well enough to say, for people to get and understand what it means to go through a drill like this if you're a kid at this age, right? And think
And
about being an even younger kid and having to go through this because this isn't something that they're just going to do at high schools. This is something that they do at middle schools as well, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, it's heavy, when you start to think about it in those terms, right? And again, and I'll give it, and I will give the show credit for this episode at the very least for this season because I think it does it well.
if we are on a roll for things that I think they did well, one of the last things that season is when when the kids are actually holding a protest against the school.
Mm-hmm.
This I actually really like, because you know what, this felt like one of those things that they had planned ever since they knew they were going to do most. Like, this
Yeah.
is something that I felt they kind of built up to, considering everything that happened. Be it Hannah, or whatever happened with the football team, and all the other stuff that the school pulled. I think this was a kind of an empowering moment for Clay and Jessica to like set up this riot on the spot and actually
Protest, not
fight.
riot. That
Yeah,
turns into
the
a riot, more
protest.
or less.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
we should mention very topical at the moment too. Again for the U.S.
yeah.
But I
Okay.
again,
Yeah. You know what? With a show which kind of played it for a comedic effect, we are not holding protests against schools in Israel. Not yet, but I won't
no.
be surprised. But
But
this is this is you
it's
Americans.
yeah, it's worth mentioning, right? Like this, I don't think they expected what's currently going on with Black Lives Matter and all the protesting and rioting and everything. What's currently going on in current, at current time America, I don't think they expected that to line up as well as it did for them. But,
Mm-hmm.
it lined up as well as it did for them in 13 Reasons Why. And, hey, while we're on it, Black Lives Matter, go support all of that and everything like that. I'm not going to get too heavy into it here. It's not the
Yeah,
kind of show we do,
like
but send your
definitely
support.
something. Definitely support,
Hmm.
but
Yeah, absolutely
uh,
send your support
actually,
and be
kind
there
of,
for them and
kind of
everything like that.
sidetrack to something that also kind of. This is not a big. This is just a small thing I noticed that Jessica has a Black Panther poster in her room,
I did
and
not notice that.
last season I also brought up that two poster like sticking out in Clay and Justin's room, and I'm like, what is with this show and making me a Marvel character? And not one Spider-Man fucker. That's so.
Spider Man's,
But
vanilla. He's too vanilla.
no, he's the best. Yeah.
um, but yeah, talking about
Well,
the riot and the police response, right? This was also, again, I agree with you. This was well done because you see the police react. You see the officers in the show react really heavily to kids of color, kids of to minority kids, right?
yeah,
Because
like the thing
you
that
see,
starts the thing
yeah,
that starts the protest is like a cop being you
extremely
know
aggressive
extremely
to
aggressive towards
Diego,
Diego.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
and to
not
the point that
Justin.
he's also like already labeling him as I don't remember the exact words, but Mexican,
Yeah,
and
he calls him
Diego
a
actually
Mexican
has
kid.
to correct him that he's not
He's
Mexican. I
Dominican,
don't.
yeah.
Yes, so this is also something that just labeling someone based on where they're from. This is again, so yeah, this is realistic and one that angers you, but at the same time, this is also what sets everything up.
Hmm.
This sets the protest up, which I think, again, this is one of those things that the sounds this season to be released when this happened, but when they
That
got
worked out.
like
It's
yeah,
a great coincidence for them. Like an extremely great coincidence for them, I'm sure.
you know, but considering the ego, they'll probably be like, yeah, we told him
Yeah.
well, this before the corona started.
Hmm. So, crap, what was I gonna say? Yeah, talking about, again, it all starts off with a fight between Justin and Diego, and the cop reacts poorly to Diego, but not Justin. And so, and it all
Yes.
culminates in, them kind of getting angry at the cop as well and attacking the cop a little bit, and the cop pulling a gun out on them both, especially Diego, right? And that's when everything
Yes.
kind of just starts from that point, and just all the other stuff building up of the school's got new metal detectors put in, the school has cameras put everywhere now, the school has cops standing around frisking people for no reason and stuff like
Yeah, and
that, and
there's also the
especially
security. There's like also the security check. At the
mm-hmm,
sound where you need to put your bag aside, and
yep,
and when Jessica says that her bra has like a metal thing attaching it, and there's a cop that you need to come you need to come inside and actually show me that you're not dangerous, and it's like, for fuck's sake.
yeah, but that's a thing you have to deal with in America, and that's why they show it, right? Because again, the message is, if we're making schools seem more like prisons, how is that a good thing, right? How is that
Yeah.
helping people's education and kids' education, and how is that doing any kind of good thing? Because even when I went to school, right, there were metal detectors in high school and in
Mm-hmm.
middle school as well, if I'm not mistaken. Like that was a thing; they were there, even when I was in school. So I can't
Yeah.
imagine what it's like now, and that's just when I graduated I think I graduated about 10 years ago, give or take, at this point. So, how much has changed in just 10 years and how much worse it has gotten. And the fact that kids have to go through that and deal with that. And I, again, like, just like with the, lockdown and the riot here and showing, kind of the police response and how brutal the police can be, I respect them for showing that because, it is it's helpful and it kind of gets that message across, right? And it does it in a kind of fictional way, so it can bridge that gap in a way that sometimes real things can't. For some people, at least, anyways, it can get that message across better potentially. But at
Okay.
the same
Yeah.
time, you don't, especially right now with what's going on with a lot of the protesting within the U.S., you don't need, and that's not just the U.S., right? All over the world, really, at this point, you don't really need to see this show in order to get it anymore. Go
Mhm.
online, look at any amount of videos released
Yeah,
online of
like
a lot of police brutality, right?
again,
At this point,
again, considering again the time of this recording, you just need to look online and you'll think.
and you'll get more than enough proof of how brutal police can be in a lot of different places, especially within the U.S. Especially within the U.S. So
Yeah.
again, yeah, send your support to those protesting. Do what you can for them in any way, shape, or form. Absolutely send that support to them because they absolutely deserve it and need it, and help them out. If you're not able to protest with people, you know, then donate or anything like that. Anything you can do, help those people out because they absolutely deserve it, right? We can at least say that much, even if we don't plan on going into a ton of talking about it, right? We can do that much for people and say something with the small audience that we
Yeah,
do have.
indeed. So with all that said, I do have something to ask you since you've always been. I've kind of gone on Clay, and I remember you were never the biggest fan of him. What do you think? What did you think about him?
In this season, I I didn't mind it. I thought the way they were setting it up, right, by the end of it, it would be he was the one who died because they
Yeah,
had
I
the
was thinking
you know
that too.
at least in the first few episodes, I was like, okay, so he wrote the college letter, and that's how everything's going to get out, right? Like he wrote the college letter, and he's going to, it's going to end with him committing suicide instead, right? Because it just begins to get too much, right? And that's
Yeah,
a
I
problem
I
kids
was
face.
sure. You know what? Not only that I think he was the one that died. I was sure that he killed himself. Like to kind of bring this full, full circle.
hmm That's what I thought would happen as well. And then we find out, no, that's not what happened at all. And we find that out fairly quickly considering everything that happens. So
Yeah,
it's like, you
but
know,
because I still remember one of my favorite season 3 review is that when you describe them as confused and hurt face, the person.
I mean, he is. He's still that way here now, but
Yeah, but and there was some moment in this show where I'm like, Wolf is probably sitting there and thinking, confused and hurt, confused and hurt. And I know, I shouldn't laugh at it. Just describe it as such, and I can't unsee it.
I mean, I had Charlie this season, so I'm happy. Charlie was
But
my favorite character this season. Charlie is too good for all of these people. Gonna be honest.
yeah,
These people don't deserve Charlie.
but
None of these
but
kids are good. None of
but
them are good.
I don't care what you say. Actually, Charlie and Alex are fucking adorable.
Yeah. Oh
I
no, they
love them.
are. I agree. But Charlie's the only good one, besides Tony's boyfriend as well, whose name I forget.
Yeah,
The guy who runs the
Caleb.
gym, Caleb. That's him. He's also good. He's also a good guy, but he's not necessarily a kid. He's a little bit older than all of them, so he's good.
Yeah,
But Charlie also was very good. Also, bringing Alex up, I loved Alex, kind of going through his character arc this season of, I don't deserve any of this kindness and love and appreciation that people are giving me. But,
hmm
you see through Charlie and through others that he eventually learns, like, you know, I still don't 100% feel like I deserve all of this, but a part of me does think I deserve it, right? A part of me has
yeah.
realized that, yeah, I do deserve this. I do deserve happiness and stuff like that.
I have a friend. I have a friend. this, so I get that.
Yeah,
But
I think a lot of
uh,
people can understand like that was also something that was done fairly well, and seeing Charlie kind of pull him out of that dark place that he was heading down again, right, and being there for him. Again, that was nice, and everything between Charlie and Alex was also really great and really adorable, and seeing their relationship form and everything like that. And
but
also, I enjoyed Charlie's back and forth with his own dad too. That was a small little moment that was also really nice.
yeah,
Again, Charlie's just a
but
good dude who's always gonna have cookies there for you, made and ready. So cool. I like him. He
yeah.
brings cookies.
Also, they all the that he's asking Alex to go to the prom with him, like the big signs. I love the room with all the
Mm-hmm.
lights was great, but although the classroom with all the people sitting there with masks, this was kind of creepy. Like
I mean,
if
Alex even says, "Well, that's unsettling," and then walks away. And Charlie's
yeah.
like,
Uh,
"Oh."
like
It
like
was funny though.
someone
I liked it.
like someone would tell you that if I want to do a big thing for someone, I would do it, but even I would be like, okay, no, this is creepy.
But again, it
uh,
was funny though, and I think the show needs a bit of that from time to time. That levity, that
actually,
comedy.
something this season, completely lacked humor and charm, which honestly, it's not the point. It's not supposed to be a comedy, but the previous seasons had that, and
Yeah,
I
you
think
think it?
it's kind of needed.
Yeah, I
I
think there was a lot less of it this season. Yeah, I would agree. I think it does
actually
have it.
going. Yeah, there was a point that actually uh, in the lockdown, Clay starts having a panic attacks and he imagines the writer of Bryce and Monty talking to him, and there was like a point where Bryce quotes Blade Runner, and Monty picks up on that, and Bryce says, "Well, we're in his head, so that's how we know." I
Hmm.
don't know. I like that. It was a nice jab at Clay's mind
Yeah,
at them, even though he's in stress. But going back to Clay because this was what's you actually without even brought up. You said that all of these people are terrible. And do you know something?
yeah.
Despite the panic attacks, despite everything, Clay is just an idiotic piece of shit in this season. Like this is the guy. This is the guy that Hannah outright said doesn't belong on the tapes, and she only put him there because she needed to tell a story in full.
Hmm.
Remember that part of season one?
Yeah.
Yeah, out the window. Let's count how many shitty things that Clay has done in this season. Oh boy, let's where do I even begin?
He wrecks a
Uh,
car and runs off on his friend Alec, Zach.
yeah, there's one, and then he follows Zach into that fraternity when they're visiting the campus and gets drunk. That's two. He
And
starts fight because someone was respecting Monty. Honestly,
well, we
I
should
don't
no.
want anyone to.
They weren't disrespecting Monty. He starts a fight because they were respecting Monty. And
Yeah, that's what I'm
oh,
saying.
sorry, I misheard you. And it was something we didn't mention. They were trying to get Monty's sister to do something that apparently Monty has a sister as well. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, by the way, she was so pointless to the show. Like, he figured her out, nothing.
Yeah, like she, if you took, yeah, agreed. If you took her out, nothing would really change because she wasn't the one really leading. Because again, like you have Winston and Diego trying to get the truth out of these kids, right? As kids themselves, like they're trying to get the truth out of the other kids and figure out what exactly happened and why it happened and everything. And you know, you have them doing that, and they involve, is it Estella? Is that her name?
I think, yeah, Estella, yes.
They involve her, and she's Monty's younger sister, and they involve her, and it's like she doesn't really do much with any of it. She has a few scenes here and there, and her and Tyler, you know,
Mhm.
kind of hook up a
Yeah, they
little
kind
bit
of
and
said
become really
something.
friendly
They
with one
kind of,
another.
yeah, they set up something between them. But again, it's like, okay, who cares? I don't
And
know.
again, it
Like,
it kind of goes through very quickly, and just she's not. Again, I agree. Like if you dropped her completely, nothing would really change except for a few things for Tyler, and that would be it.
mhm. And but again, so going back to play, he and so he starts a fight suddenly. He gets it kind of implies, I know he's being accused, but he kind of tells the psychiatrist that it's kind of implied he would have maybe raped that girl, and
Oh
then
no, it's not implied. He says he was thinking about it to his psychiatrist, right? Like that's something he brings up and talks about.
okay, okay, fine. But then
But it's
again,
not
he has
implied.
sex. But in that house party, he is, he's having sex with a girl who's boyfriend, and then when he beats him up, and
Oh
then
yeah.
drunk he drives Zach's car, crashes it, and leaves him to die basically.
Yep.
And then when he's when he's put in the hospital, he lies to the doctor and he runs away. And then when he meets Annie, he's like just so concerned. He doesn't tell how she's taking it during the time he wasn't around. For fuck's sake, this is supposed to be the good guy. This is supposed to be the shit. And it's like I don't care about him. Like if I had a friend like this, sayonara.
I mean, if I had a friend like any of them,
Fair
sayonara.
point. Fair point.
Because
But
even like Jessica's reason for being pissy at Justin, like him saying like, "Hey, I don't know if I can be with you
oh,
anymore,"
Jessica,
and she
Jessica,
kind of
Jessica.
like these kids guilt trip each other a lot.
Yeah, and also I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking this, but considering the problem was Jessica started last season about and the organization she runs, which is hands off, basically HO. I'm assuming that's
Mm-hmm.
what it stands
Yeah,
for,
yeah.
and everything. I think she's the one. As much, and I get it. I'm not making fun of her being a a rapist, not at all. But isn't it kind of eyebrow raising that a rape victim is the person that gets the most boys laid in this show intentionally?
Yeah, I don't think that's a problem because again, like that's her
I
choice, and they do kind of go through the whole consent thing with that, and I don't think
yeah
it
I
hurts the character per se. I think what hurts
but
the
she's
shows.
but she's still but she's still using it to gain something. And if it's spying on if it's spying on Diego to get information about what he's doing to Clay, or if it's to get Justin mad, or if it's basically cheating on, because her and Diego are actually boyfriend and girlfriend for a good portion of the show.
Mhm.
So cheating on him with Justin, who you broke up with, it's like girl, stop. Why, I don't know.
Yeah, I do get where you're coming from. Like she is definitely, she can come off kind of hypocritical in some ways. Something else is that's kind of hypocritical, right? Yeah, I talked last season, right, that it was interesting they were doing that story of like, hey, let's kind of broach the idea and the question of when should we forgive a rapist, right? Like, you know, I said like after the punishment is served and dealt with, should they be allowed to try and lead a normal life again? Should they be allowed to try and do better, right? And I said I think it's interesting that the show brings up that question, and they do it again this season, and they do it again heavily this season with Clay and Monty and Bryce again, right? And the
Yeah, they
problem,
do talk about
oh, go ahead.
I or yeah. No, I just agree with you. I get what.
Well, I think I was going to say is the problem I was going to say with that is yeah, sure, it's all well and good to think about, hey, when should we forgive and when should, or, should we forgive at all? And, should these people, should the people who, rape other people and do, this stupid shit and this, absolutely heinous thing, when should they be able to live a normal life, right? But the problem is, after they're punished, right? But the problem is, and
None of
something
them receive the punishment.
well, again, even in real life, right? Like, Bryce's whole court case of, oh, well, I don't want to see a young kid like this have his entire life ruined for one mistake, right? And it wasn't just one mistake for Bryce, but that's a real thing that happened in the real world, right? A kid was let
Yeah.
off for like he had 4 months in jail and he only served 2 and got out on good behavior because of the fact that people didn't want to see his entire life ruined for what was described as one simple mistake. And it's like, hold up. Let's talk a minute
Yeah,
here. Your one simple mistake ruined someone else's life for the rest of their life. So let's talk
exactly.
about actual punishment first, because we've not really gotten to that point yet. We can't really talk about the idea of forgiveness or the idea of, you know, when is the punishment
And you
enough
know
until we
something,
actually start doing the whole punishing part, you know? Like that's kind of the
and
problem with the show
yeah,
as well.
and that's the thing that this is another thing that I that showed all the way, at least when it comes to Bryce, because for Monty's thing is for Monty, he just went. The thing is that he got in jail for what he did, but
Mm-hmm.
then he was killed in jail.
Again,
So
something to also consider, like, Monty was, also a minority character, right? Like, I think he was also had some kind of Spanish, or South American heritage, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I'm not entirely sure, but if you say so.
Again, I think he was, that was kind of the point in the last season in some way, because he got way rougher handled than what Bryce did, right? Like he got actually sent to jail, and Bryce just had a court case where it resulted in, yeah, you get expulsion from school, and you're not allowed
Yeah,
to go
but at the
back living
same
high, and you
time,
have to do community
what
service.
Monty, but at the same time, what Monty did to Tyler is a terrible thing,
Yeah,
and
but
he
what?
deserved to
Yeah,
go
but
to jail.
Bryce. Yeah, oh, absolutely. I'm not saying he didn't, but Bryce deserved to go to jail as well. But because he's a rich white
Yeah,
guy with rich parents, he didn't go to jail. That's
yeah,
kind of the
okay,
difference, and that's
I
kind of
get.
the thing.
But I'm saying in terms of the punishment, because these are the two that the show that this is part of the entire. Should they have died? It was it fitting for them to die?
Hmm.
So Monty, in regards to what you say, did at least get the punishment he deserved, which was because he was sent to jail.
But he
Bryce
didn't.
didn't.
Yeah, and again, I think one of the messages they do try and say is they don't deserve to die though, and while I don't disagree, no one
And
deserves to
and
die.
I
Go
think
ahead.
that again with the mixed messages from the show, I think the show kind of tried justifying the idea that that Bryce dying is him paying for what he's done.
I think it tries to justify it in the characters' minds, but I don't think the show itself necessarily tries to justify it, because I think the show would rather say he didn't deserve that, and I think the show wanted everyone to kind of forgive him for what he did when he doesn't really deserve that, right?
I would have agreed with you if because what they attempted to do, what happened in is that he recorded that tape for Jess,
Mm-hmm.
Hannah Baker style, I guess,
Yeah.
and the thing is that when he wanted to give it to her, Zach broke his legs, and then Alex tried to help him, and eventually one thing led to another, and he fell to the ocean and died.
Well, Alex pushed him.
Yes.
Alex killed him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Alex killed him. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But and the thing is that and the time when they stayed is only after he's dead, and they kind of sorted the entire thing out.
Mm-hmm.
So so in that sense, so again, even if I'm not sure if the show intended this to be this way or the character think this, but the way it was represented, they only listened to his confession and gave it a chance after he died.
Mm-hmm.
So so the show kinda, even if it didn't say it or intended to be in the characters' minds, kind of put this in the into he died. He got his punishment by dying, and you could argue that he deserved to die. I won't hold it against you if you think so. But at the same time, seeing her, again, talk to some people, wouldn't it be, more fitting to maybe just give the guy a punch, years in jail, and then recover from it? there are cases to be made here. What's right or wrong, you be the judge. But
Oh, sure, but I think again, it's trying to show off that idea of a lot of people aren't punished for this, right? A lot of people do get away with it completely, with and get off completely scot free with no punishment whatsoever. Sometimes, after doing something like this, even though that should never be the case. And again, I think that's kind of my point. Where if the show wants to purport that these people should eventually be forgiven and these people should eventually after serving the punishment that they deserve you know they should be able to go back and have a life. Again, the issue is we come back to the fact that even here in the real world, right, we're not at that point yet. We're not at the point of really even getting to the point of serving out a lot of punishments, because people are still getting by with it and still getting away with it. And I think that's kind of the problem. Like you can't make these people seem human in that way when we've not really gotten to the point of, okay, let's punish them in the real world, right? We've not gotten to that point yet. We're still not doing that enough or at all, hardly in some cases. And until we get to that point in the real world, it's kind of it feels wrong in a way to send that kind of message. Like, yeah, that's a talk we need to have. That's something we need to figure out and decide upon. But first off, we need to get to the point of actually punishing people for committing this crime and doing
yes.
this, terrible thing first before we can have that kind of discussion. Because we're not done with this discussion as of now. But we're already trying to talk about or hint at talking about or putting it in people's mind of, hey, maybe we should talk about forgiveness. Maybe we should talk about the idea of punishment and what is just and what isn't. It's like, well, no, we can't do that because we've not even talked about punishing these people yet. We need to get done with that conversation first and actually start punishing people before we start talking about how much is too much.
Mm-hmm. Well, with all that said, I think we can kind of jump ahead to the ending. And
Sure, I think we've kind of covered everything, more or less. Like again, there's a few good moments here and there. I enjoyed.
actually, another thing that I won't say I'm iffy about it, but when considering the end of the show, I come it's something that did kind of make me raise an eyebrow. That Hannah is mentioned not a lot in this season. Like I would
No,
say, even
not
the
until the
least amount of
very
time.
end. Not until the very end does
Yes.
she even come up remotely at all.
Mhm. And and then they do kind of point out that because the actress did come back to shoot like these two shots of her sitting across in the row seats across from Clay, and then like they're getting up to walk towards each other. And so they brought the actress from this. I think we could have done a bit more with this idea, considering this is the final season and
I don't
she's
know.
what
Are you?
started.
Sounds to me like you're asking they would have done another episode or three. HC.
No, 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 no. Not what I'm saying. Cut some of the other stuff out.
Fair enough. I don't know.
But
I think it was fine the way they did it. I don't think we need to bring back up Hannah again. Really, I think we've kind of settled that story. And
you know what? Again, not necessarily to bring her back, just but uh, again, I know we had the entire closure with her too, but again, since she started this and it also ends with them, because then all of a sudden near the end, Hannah's mother sends Clay the tapes, and
mhm.
they bury the tapes together, and they make a big thing about this is Clay saying this is where I first listened to my tape, and it's like, okay, what is the point of this again? Did you leave the Hannah behind? It just felt like because even in the previous season after moved on from her, she still had kind of a way in Bryce's quote unquote redemption, like him listen because he listened to the tapes and realized just how much he kind of was the string pulling on all of the reasons of her suicide, and
Mhm.
it kind of was But here it's just like, oh yeah, Hana was a thing. I forgot.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from, but yeah, I don't know. Past that little bit of closure, right? I don't see what influence she would have on a lot of things here, right? And how she would
Actually,
really
you know
connect.
what I think what they could have done with this actress,
Mm-hmm.
that because after we see her bit in the field after the graduation, Clay meets this girl who I think it looks similar to Hannah. Something about the hairstyle, something about the way she dresses. So just take the actress, give her a bit of a different hairstyle, put her in different clothing, and
Don't
you
do
can
that. Don't
kind
do
of.
that. That would have been a bad idea. I feel that would have been a very bad idea. I feel
It's a bad idea as it is. That all of a sudden there's a girl
fair,
that kind of looks like her, and she's like, "Hey, I understand the reference in your email address." Stuff. It's like, come on. So if you want to go
fair,
stupid, go.
fair. I don't think they should do the complete stupid way, but fair enough. I get where you're coming from.
Okay. But then like honestly, the ending itself, I actually didn't get. Like I get it that it's something that I kind of was the Tony's journey, and him going to all the boxing matches to get money to his family and stuff. I like that idea.
Mhm.
I enjoyed it, and then by the end after his father, he does encourage him to go to that college where he can get a scholarship for, and
Mhm.
and the show ends with Clay and Tony taking a trip to see the college, and it kind of ends it ends fine with Tony driving off, but then there's just this long shot of the both of them sitting sitting in the car, smiling like turning on and opening the windows, and it's like, what's happening? Something has to happen. Is that gonna crash? Is that gonna crash? Is that gonna die? Something is
God,
like something
this
is
show
gonna
is
happen.
this show is tainted. UHC.
Yeah, probably. Can you blame me?
No.
We had a car crash a few episodes before this.
Mm.
So like, are they trying to symbolize that we come full circle because the
Yeah, I
show
think that's what it
started?
was. I think it kind of it started with Tony and Clay in a car, kind of in a way, or at least it started with Tony and Clay. So it's like we've come
Yeah,
full circle by ending with Tony and Clay. I
yeah,
think that's what they were trying to
but then
do.
we didn't need this minute long shot of nothing happening, and then all of a sudden the show ends,
Yeah, it's a little
and it's like,
weird.
and it was like, okay, we're done now.
We could have ended on Tony and Clay kind of saying goodbye to their parents, and Tony saying goodbye to his boyfriend Aaron, kind of being happy that they're going off and everything, and they get in the car and they drive off, and you could have ended with a shot of the car, the back of the car, watching it drive off, and then that'd be it, and
Yeah,
held on that for a few seconds instead of God. I think this was like a minute, 2 minutes. How long was this? It's a long shot that we're just kind of
yeah,
watching them drive. Yeah, I agree
yeah,
with you.
and
I don't disagree. I too's like, okay, what's gonna happen here? Is it just that's it? Okay, fair enough. I get what you're doing. We've come full circle, but little
we didn't
weird.
need 2 minutes of a shot. You know,
Little
what's it
weird.
like?
Someone really
Uh,
liked that car and they just wanted to get it in the shot just one last
I
time.
get it. I guess. You know what?
It's
You
a
know what?
nice car.
It's as good as any other answer.
It's a nice car.
Like, imagine actually talking to the show. They're like, what is the meaning behind this shot? It's like, you gotta admit, this is a nice ass car. Yeah, but
But there's there
it's like,
what is the meaning though? It's a nice car. That's the
yeah,
meaning.
it's kind of, it reminds me of this too, where it was like making fun of the comic books make no sense. So they're like talking about Batman and how the villain escape outcome, and it's like, don't you think with all the money that Batman has, he could give it to the Gotham Department to invest in another wall, another fence to stop them, and it's and the commissioner, somebody tells commissioner, we ran out of budget. Yeah, but come on, look at this thing I put on our cows. Look at it. Look at the colors. It reminds me of that.
Mm. So since we've kind of come to the end of it, there's definitely a lot of stuff we should bring up that we haven't mentioned or talked about within the series, within this season.
Yes.
If you want to watch it, that's your way of not being completely spoiled by us, and that you can go watch that. I did enjoy Clay's mom in this season, right? As another small thing to bring up, because she was fun this season, I think, and seeing kind of her character be a bit more developed and a bit more involved was nice and fun. And same with Alex's dad, right? Being a bit more involved and developed as well was nice,
Yeah.
especially for Alex, and kind of seeing that relationship, right? And then, like I said, I enjoyed Charlie and everything with him too, and Tony and his boyfriend as well, Caleb. I enjoyed Tony's been my favorite character since season 1, right? And that's
Yeah.
not changed. Although
Same.
Charlie came along and definitely pushed the boundary a little bit. Like, he's definitely close second, if not tied for first now. Charlie is, yeah. But we have to ask the question of, since we've ended all of this, since we've come to the end of 13 Reasons Why, and as far as we're aware, no more sequel bait. No more sequel season 8. No more.
No,
We're done. So
they
there's not going to be a
also
13 Reasons Why to the future.
certain reasons why I canceled my Netflix subscription.
No. What they do is, we see all the kids grown up, and now we get to see their kids go through their issues now.
Oh God. A descendant of Hannah Baker.
Oh boy. But actually, kind of asking you, did you think this was worthwhile to watch? Did you think it's a good thing that 13 Reasons Why exists?
As much as I rented it again, I think it's good that it exists.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, though, I'm not sure how much, because everyone who asks me this, I always say stop after season 1. Everything else really doesn't matter.
I would say stop after season 2. I would say stop after that one season 2 ending of them all dancing together. That's when you stop.
Yeah, but season 2.
Season 2 goes in through a lot of other stuff. So maybe watch season 1, then watch that season 2 ending of them dancing together, and that's your ending. No context to where they got to the dance, right? But that's your ending, like all of them dancing together.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I would say watch the first 2 seasons, and you'll have a decent-ish experience, and that should be your ending.
I always say, season 1 before, so approach with caution. But I do think it's a good thing that this show existed at the very least. You can agree with it. You can say it speaks for you. You can say it's not speaks for you. It's a good thing that it exists, because it did start a talk. Mm-hmm. Because it did bring up a talk and a topic to the front. I'm not sure if the book did it when it came out. I think I heard it did, but again, all I know about the book is that I have a friend who read it. I have 2 friends who read it. I have a friend that stayed away from it, and that I saw it in a store once or twice.
I didn't even know there was a book, so I can say nothing. Mm-hmm. So that says how well talks about how well I keep my ear to the ground. I don't. Well, I like my rock, and I live under it very well. It's a nice rock that I live under.
Well, dude, let's be honest. I didn't know there was a show, so I have.
Fair.
I have, it's not like.
You must also have a very nice rock that you live under.
Maybe when it comes to books, because I'm a good person. But so I think it's good that it exists to bring up the topic, but at the same time, the way it approaches the topic and the way they, like I said at the beginning, the way it kind of feels, it kind of overblows its own importance at times, and this is something I can't really appreciate when again I brought this up. There's another show on Netflix called Sex Education, which deals with other themes and ideas, and honestly they do a much better job, and I think just on the show.
You're breaking up quite a bit. Sorry.
Oh, can you hear me now?
A little bit, yeah. It seems like it's cleared some.
Okay, there was something truck driving by, maybe that broke me up. I don't know.
Maybe.
But so sex education basically does the job a lot better with less forcing, with less feeding, as I call it, and they actually show that the message of talking helps the characters when they do, and the characters, and it's basically doing the better and with less episodes to boot.
Yeah.
And so, sex education, 2 seasons so far, both have 8 episodes each, and the third season is indeed coming. So go ahead, check it out, and make it point. I don't know.
Okay. For my part, I would say, yeah, I also agree. I think it's a good thing that it exists because, at the very least, it also helps to start that kind of talk as well. It can, anyways, hopefully. But also, I think it's a good thing that it exists because you can see, you can take from this show and say, okay, here's the things that it did decently okay at, and here's the things that it just failed miserably at, and right, and we can take from that and say, all right, now let's make another show and do those things better, all of them, right? Like we can see where
I
the show
think
falters
though,
at.
I think this is an actually, at least before this, there wasn't really, there weren't probably movies and shows where this happened, but there was never really a high school show or movie before this that really dealt with the idea of suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like every first time you do something, there are mistakes and there are notes that you need to take that you need to take note of.
Mm-hmm.
And I think and because a lot of people say about the first season that it kind of glorified
Yeah.
it. And so I'll definitely say it's good that it exists because if someone ever wants to take another shot at it, then at least you have a blueprint to follow and kind of see what doesn't, what and how we can actually keep say this message of the message of talking and actually see help and how you can get through those things, how we can keep this alive.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that at least there is a show that started this. Whether or not it's for your liking or not, it's a story again. But the fact that something started it is worth mentioning.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you have to have the stepping stones, right? I think it's good that this exists for that stepping stone of it falters, it fails in a lot of ways, it succeeds in some, and take from that and use that and build upon that for another show that's completely different, that still tackles similar themes that we can say, okay, this is even better. And we're getting there, right? There is we do build upon and iterate. We do iterate and iterate and iterate on everything that we do, and build upon that. And so this is a way we can do that now. Well, it's not perfect.
Agreed.
And I would say, it does get a lot wrong. And, it's worth pointing those things out as well, right? To say, like, hey, this is done poorly and this is done wrong. And this is why it's done poorly and why it's done wrong. And how it being done wrong can also do some damage, right? But at least that gets people talking about the right way to approach these things and the right way to do these things and the right way to talk about these things. Again, there's good that can come from the failure of it, right? Doesn't mean that we should always continue to do the failure part. We should try and get better, but as long as we are trying to get better and iterate and do better, then yeah, I'll say it's a good thing that this exists. It's a good thing that this is that stepping stone. And for my part, I would say that I didn't hate my time with it, right? I think, there is some stuff here that, like I said, that I do think is good and enjoyable. And there's a lot of stuff here that I think is not good and not very enjoyable and not done well. But, I think I could have found worse ways to, spend my time. Absolutely.
Well, so I guess with that said, we are kind of done.
13 Reasons Why version 2. To the future. The animated version.
No, God forbid, no.
It's we go back. Now we're doing live action. Right now we're doing live action versions of all the animated stuff. We'll eventually do animated versions of all the live action stuff. We
Wolf,
gotta.
Wolf,
It has to go back and forth, HC. That's
Wolf.
how it works.
No, it's not how this works.
That's how Hollywood
Yeah.
works, HC.
So, with that said, though, I think we pretty much covered everything. So that's it for this episode of the Outcast. We hope you enjoyed it. What did you think about certain reasons why season 4? And I guess certain reasons why in general. You can tell us all about this in the comment section below and on social media, which is Bearcast Team on Tumblr and Bearcast with a capital B, capital C on Twitter. So until next time, I was HC.
I was Wolf.
And we will talk to you all next time. And please talk to your parents, your therapists, whoever you trust. There is someone out there that loves you, and there is someone out there that can help you. Absolutely. Don't forget this. We love you all. Take care.
Bye-bye.